Hello everyone. I'm here for a listening workshop this time. I thought of organizing a listening workshop because in my past workshops, I have always emphasized on the importance of reading, writing, listening, and speaking. To speak English fluently, you need to immerse yourself in the environment, and for that, listening native speakers speak English is it's quite important for your overall development, for your overall language development, I would say. I thought I would curate some videos for you all, so that they have subtitles also. So it will be easier for you to play and pause. In case you don't understand something, you can pause the video and start go back, rewind a little bit, and read the subtitles in case you don't grasp what the speaker is saying. So I actually selected TEDx videos because they are quite standard and they have good content. I have a TEDx video of the Duolingo founder, okay, and he spoke really well. So I thought I would share that video with you all. There is also one video from Shashi Tharoor. Okay, so I hope you all remember that before this workshop, I asked all of you to come handy with a pen and a diary or a notepad, right? So I hope you all have it handy. I want you all that before, I'll play the videos in some time, but before I play the videos, I would like all of you to keep a pen and diary ready so that, when you're listening to the video, just try to note some good vocabulary words that you hear. Okay, in case you hear a particular phrase that you have never heard before, that you don't know the meaning of, you can also note that. Okay, note things that you find are quite interesting. Okay, you can note accent of a word that you didn't know before, that you knew about that word, but you didn't know how to pronounce it. Okay, you didn't know the context in which it has to be used. So note those kind of words. Okay, this noting is personalized. It's as per your need. It depends on what level you are on. Okay, you know who you are, right? So you can keep your notes as per your needs. Okay, they are going to be different for different people. Okay, I might know meaning of some word, but you might not know the meaning of that word. So you can note those words. You can note those phrases. Okay. Also, these are quite inspiring videos. The founder of Duolingo, he started that app. He started that site to so that all people can learn languages. And the reason why he developed that app, you'll be able to understand why he developed this app when you watch his video. It's quite inspiring. Okay, another video that I'm going to share with you all today is by Shashi Tharoor. He's a voracious reader, and that's why the best orator you can find. Um, he has a rich vocabulary. I mean, I've read some of his books, and from those books, I can tell you that uh, I mean, a lot of people know good words, but they don't know how to use them. And Shashi Tharoor aces at that. Okay, he knows a lot of good words, but he knows the context in which they have to be used, and he uses them beautifully. Okay, so I have these two videos for you lined up for you today, and I hope you get a lot of learnings from it. After this workshop, I also want you all to note 3 takeaways from these videos. These are inspirational videos, remember? Okay, so you all can take something that you would want to implement in your life as well, a practice that you would like to do every day. Also, you can the founder of Duolingo, he was a teacher. Okay, he was basically a teacher. So anyone can develop something. Anyone can decide to be an entrepreneur at any point in their life. That was my key takeaway from those videos. Okay, so have your own takeaways, have your own learnings that you want that you would want from these videos. Okay, that's why I organized this workshop for you. Okay, so let me share my screen with you. I'll start the videos. Just a moment. Oh, mouse is not working today. Now it's working. Not even now. I don't know why my mouse is not working today. Okay, here is it. Remember, keep your pen and paper ready. Okay.
So, I'm from Guatemala. This is a public service announcement. That is where Guatemala is. Also, that is not where they keep the prisoners. That is called Guantanamo. Not the same place. So, Guatemala is right below Mexico. And for the Americans in the audience, and let this sink in because it really applies in most ways. For the Americans in the audience, you can think of it as Mexico's Mexico. Just like the US doesn't want illegal immigration from Mexico, Mexico doesn't want illegal immigration from Guatemala. It's a smaller country, it's a poorer country, and, well, what can I tell you? It has much better Mexican food. Guatemala is a very poor country, and a lot of people talk about education as something that brings equality to different social classes. But I always saw it as the opposite, as something that brings inequality. Because what happens in practice is that people who have a lot of money can buy themselves a really good education and therefore continue having a lot of money, whereas people who don't have very much money barely learn how to read and write and therefore never make a lot of money, and this is especially true in poor countries. Now, I was fortunate that I received a rich person's education, even though I didn't grow up rich. And it's because I'm an only child, and my mother, who was a single mother, spent all of her resources on my education. And this allowed me to come to college to the US and eventually get a PhD in computer science. Now, because of all of this, about 10 years ago, I decided I wanted to do something that would give equal access to education to everyone. Oh, by the way, this is what I want to talk to you about today, giving equal access to education to everyone. At the time, I was a professor of computer science at Carnegie Mellon University, and I decided to work on this with my PhD student, Severin. The way my brain works, all of education is just too general of a problem. So I decided, let's start by teaching one thing. And then I started thinking, okay, well, what should we teach first? Should we teach math? I mean, we both loved math. Me and my co-founder, we both loved math. And, we didn't decide to do math. Then we started thinking, well, maybe we should teach computer science. But eventually, and this is maybe surprising to people in North America, eventually we decided that the best subject to start with was teaching foreign languages. And let me tell you why. There's a number of reasons. One of them is that there's a huge audience for it. There's about 2 billion people in the world learning a foreign language, both in school and outside of schools. Most of these people, by the way, are learning English. About 80% of them are learning English. In this weird map right here, all the countries in green are countries in which people are predominantly learning English. And the reason for that is because English can truly transform your life. In most countries in the world, knowledge of English can significantly increase your income potential. So this is another reason why we decided to start with foreign languages, and it's because you can directly make more money if you learn another language, in particular English. And see, this is pretty different than many other subjects. For example, take math. In the case of math, just knowledge of math does not increase your income potential, because usually you have to learn math to then learn physics, to then become a civil engineer. Like, that's how you make more money. Whereas with languages, if you were a waiter and you learn English, now you can be a waiter at a hotel and make more money. So we decided, well, let's get started by teaching languages. Now, we also convinced ourselves that the only way to really reach a lot of people was by using a mobile phone, or a smartphone in particular. See, building schools all over the world is simply too expensive. On the other hand, most of the world's population already has access to a smartphone, and the trend is that that fraction is only going to increase. So we decided at the time that we would make a way to learn foreign languages on a mobile phone that was accessible to everyone. And then we called it Duolingo. Thank you. Now, in order to truly be accessible to everyone, rich and poor, Duolingo uses a freemium model to support itself. What that means is that you can learn as much as you want without ever having to pay. But if you don't pay, you may have to see an ad at the end of a lesson. Now, if you don't like ads, you can also pay to subscribe to turn off the ads. And it turns out that the vast majority of the revenue for Duolingo comes from people who pay to subscribe to turn off the ads. Now, who are these people who pay to subscribe to turn off the ads? Well, they're usually people, they're well-off people in rich countries like the US and Canada. Who are the people who don't pay to subscribe? They usually come from poorer countries like Brazil or Vietnam or Guatemala. So what I like about this model is that it is a small form of wealth redistribution, because we're basically getting the rich people to pay for the education of everyone. So I like that. Yes. It's so great. So with smartphones, we can reach a lot of people, and we can even get the rich people to pay for the whole thing. This is great. However, if you're trying to deliver education with a smartphone, you run into a humongous problem. And it is that smartphones come equipped with some of the most addictive drugs that humanity has ever engineered. TikTok, Instagram, mobile games. See, delivering education over a smartphone is like hoping that people will eat their broccoli, but right next to it, you put the most delicious dessert ever made. If you really want to deliver education to everyone, not only do you have to make it accessible, but also you have to make it so that people want to actually learn. And with Duolingo, we've been able to do this. And at the highest level, the way we've done this is by making the broccoli taste like dessert. I'll say it another way. What we've done is that we've used the same psychological techniques that apps like Instagram, TikTok, or mobile games use to keep people engaged. But in this case, we use them to keep people engaged, but with education. Let me give you some examples of these techniques. One of the most powerful ones is the notion of a streak. What a streak is it's just a counter that measures the number of days that you've used the product consecutively. You just take that number, you put it very prominently in your product, and then people come back every day. And the reason people come back every day is because, well, if they don't come back, that number resets to 0, and people don't want to lose their streak. It works. Now, on the one side, streaks have been criticized for example, getting teens addicted to Snapchat. But in the case of an educational app, streaks get people to come back to study every day.
I'll just rewind it a little bit so you all can go for it.
Now, to give you an idea of the power of streaks, in the case of Duolingo, we have over 3 million daily active users that have a streak longer than 365. That means they haven't missed a day in the last year or longer. Now, fun fact about streaks. What country do you think has the longest average streaks for an educational app? It's Japan. Of course. Shortest average streaks? Latin America, baby. But we're fun. Hey, we're fun. Another important mechanism to get people to come back to your product are notifications. On the one side, notifications can be really spammy and annoying. But in the case of an educational product, people actually want to be reminded to learn. In the case of Duolingo, we have a very sophisticated AI system that basically chooses when to send a notification and also what to say in each notification to maximize the probability that people come back. Now, interestingly, even after all this sophistication, it turns out that the algorithm for choosing what time to send you a notification is pretty simple. Do you know what is the best time to send people a notification? I'll tell you. It's 24 hours after they used the product last. Because, and there's an easy explanation. If you were free yesterday at 3 p.m., you're probably free today at 3 p.m. as well. So this is what a very sophisticated millions of dollars of AI found. It's funny. Now, with notifications, you shouldn't be spammy. And we're not spammy. With Duolingo, we actually stop sending notifications after 7 days of inactivity. So if you don't use Duolingo for 7 days, we stop sending you notifications. Now, at some point, it occurred to us, if we're stopping to send people notifications, we should let them know. So we started sending this notification to people saying, hey, these reminders don't seem to be working. We'll stop sending them for now. You know what people do when they get this notification? They come back. Passive aggressive. Works for my mother, works for Duolingo. These passive aggressive notifications are really good at getting people to come back because they feel like our green owl mascot has given up on them. So they come back. And speaking of our green owl mascot, by the way, because all our notifications come from our green owl mascot, and well, he's passive aggressive and also pretty pushy, this has given rise to a lot of memes on the internet that make fun of just the great lengths that he will go through to get you back to learn a language. Here's one of my favorite ones. It's a meme. It's one of my favorite ones. It's basically, looks like you forgot your Spanish lessons, and then there's an intruder alert. Presumably the owl broke into your house to get you to learn a language. Now, Duolingo has entered the zeitgeist, and there's thousands of memes, there's SNL skits about it, and it's because we've managed to get people to want to learn a language by using the same techniques that mobile games and social media use to get people engaged. And this is a really important point, let me say this. I don't actually believe that there's a way to make an educational app be as engaging as something like TikTok or Instagram or mobile games. But the good news is that, and by the way, the reason I don't believe that is because ultimately you have to teach people something, and it's hard to compete with like cats and celebrities. But the good news is that I don't think you have to. See, here's the thing. When you're learning something, you get meaning out of it. Whereas when you're scrolling for 2 hours on Instagram, a lot of times afterwards, you feel like you just wasted your time. So I think it's actually okay if your educational product is only 80 or 90% as engaging as something like TikTok, because the other 10 or 20% will be provided by people's internal motivation, though, of course, not much more than that. This is really a key point. If you want to get people to do something meaningful, you can use the same techniques that apps like social media use to get people to do it. And even if you're not as engaging as those apps are, you can still get hundreds of millions of people to use your product. In the case of Duolingo, for example, there are more people learning languages on Duolingo in the United States than there are people learning languages across all US high schools combined. And this is true in most countries in the world. My hope is that, well, I know we can do this, but my hope is that as humanity, we can do what Duolingo has done for learning languages, but for all other subjects, where we can get people to learn math with mobile phones, like millions of people to learn math with mobile phones, or physics, or whatever. I hope for a future in which screen time is not a bad thing, in which we can deliver high-quality education to everyone, rich or poor, using a mobile phone. But the single most important thing that I can end this talk with is a reminder to please, pretty please, I beg you, do your language lessons today. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Luis, thank you so much. Thank you. I wonder if you can just say a little bit more about that last point, about how do you think that you can apply this type of thinking to other subjects? So you mentioned math, you mentioned things like that. How do you do that?
Yeah, I think in particular subjects that are learned through repetition. And it turns out most things that are kind of really meaningful are learned through like thousands and thousands of repetitions. You learn to read through repetition, you learn elementary school math through repetition. Most things that you can learn through repetition, you can actually gamify and turn into something like Duolingo, where people just do it a lot and do it fun. It's a little harder for things like explanations. That's probably going to require some really good videos. Sal Khan is doing a really good job with that. But for things that require a lot of repetition, I think we can use the same methods.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you.
So I hope you all found this video quite informative and you did your notings, because I did mine. And here are the notings that I made. First is when he did the introduction. Did you notice the introduction that he gave? I always ask you people to give the most unconventional introduction. Okay, in my very first workshop, I asked all my students to give an introduction of themselves, a very short 5 to 6 lines introduction in the most unconventional ways. Okay, why? Because most of the people introduce themselves by saying, hi, myself this, and I work as this, or a woman would say I'm a homemaker. A working professional would say, I do this job, that's it. That's the only introduction you people have. But you can always tell more. He told us about where he hails from. Okay. He told us he is from Guatemala. Okay. And it has a similar name. Okay. Guatemano. I think even I am learning to pronounce this word, but I had read this word, but still I'm struggling with its pronunciation because I used to pronounce it in a different manner. Okay. I used to pronounce it as Guantanamo. It's Guantanamo Bay. It was an area where I think people were held as prisoners in the US. Okay. And I read it in some text, or I read it in some documentary, that it was a place where um, I think immigrants or people like that who had immigrated into the country and did some crimes there, they were kept as prisoners. So I think it's in US or somewhere. So I knew about this Guantanamo Bay, and it was even earlier. It was used as a prison before this immigration thing and all, and it was used as a prison earlier as well. Like, I think even during World Wars maybe. That's how I know the context of this place, and I know that this place is different from this the Guatemala that he's saying. Okay, so this is the power of reading as well. Again, before I could understand the context, I could understand what he was saying in his introduction, because I already knew about the distinction, because I had read somewhere. I don't know, maybe I was reading Anne Frank's biography. That's where I've read this word, but there's somewhere that I've read this word. And that's how things stick. When you are quite immersive, that's how things stick. Because our brain, it has a tendency that when we are not using any kind of knowledge or any kind of resource for long, it puts that resource on a sleep mode. Okay, so if you learn a new word today, but if you don't use it in your vocabulary for some time, you're going to forget that word. You're going to forget its meaning as well. It doesn't matter how many times you write it in your diary. Okay, if you keep writing 10 words daily in your diary, you're still going to be at the same place. Okay, you won't improve, you won't make any progress. That's the reason, because your brain sends all those words to sleep mode. You didn't use it. The brain does not know how to use those words. It does not know the context in which you have to use those words. So those words, they don't even occur to you while speaking. Okay, so the first point that I noted that I found interesting was the introduction that he gave, and the way he introduced his birthplace, the place where he hails from. The second is the income potential for language learners. Again, like, I'm teaching English, and I always tell all of you that people all over the
But
globe
also pay
are learning
attention to.
languages. They're learning new languages so that they can connect with people. And I'm telling you, English is the global language, and you all need to be fluent in it. If you want to grow, if you want personal growth in your life, you need to be fluent in English. So again, income potential for language learners. That's my second takeaway. Then third is the pronunciation of mobile. Did you notice that most of us say mobile and he was saying mobile? Okay, he was giving his speech in front of, I think, US crowd, right? The crowd that was sitting in front of him, they were US, and he used the US pronunciation of this word. The word mobile has two pronunciations: mobile and mobile. Americans say mobile, Britishers say mobile. Okay, so you should also choose the accent that you are all going to follow. You can't follow a mix, that some words I'm going to pronounce the way the way it's pronounced in British English, and some words I'm going to pronounce the way it is pronounced in American English. Okay, you have to be careful of your pronunciations and accents. Okay, even I didn't know the difference. I had to search it. Okay, I thought mobile is pronounced mobile. There is no difference. There are a lot of rules, but you are going to learn them as they come to you. If you want to learn all the rules before and then start speaking, you will never be able to do that, because there are a lot of rules, and you learn rules by practicing, not by just knowing them. What is the point of a rule if you're not able to practice it? Okay. So again, pronunciation. I learned pronunciation of a word, like different pronunciations of a word in different like countries. Then fourth is the freemium model. Okay, I don't know if a lot of people, if it's there in the dictionary or something. It's something he invented, like we do. Like if I'm speaking in Hindi and English at the same time, I'm using both the languages. I would say I'm using English or Hindi, as most of the people say. So that is my word. I have come up with this word. So this is a word he has come up with. You can use these kind of words in your speeches, but only after you have like grabbed the attention of audience and they really know in what context you are saying. Otherwise, they won't be able to understand it and they'll go blank. Okay, this is another way of speaking nowadays. Then fifth is wealth redistribution. He hails from a poor country, okay, where education is available to few. Okay, it is available to people who have the resources, and they continue growing rich because they have good education. People who can't afford good education, they don't know how to read, write, and speak. Maybe speak their local tongue, but like not really well. Okay, so they continue to be poor. So the economic disparity in that country keeps growing, or it stays constant. It does not reduce. And to ensure progress in a country, we have to reduce this economic disparity. India is also struggling with that. We are a developing country, and we are working on that every single day. All the different programs that you see that the government is running, they are aimed at reducing the economic disparity. Okay, the difference between the rich and poor, we have to reduce that. That is what is economic disparity means. Economic disparity means the difference between the rich and the poor, the gap. If you reduce that gap and you bring equality in the country, that's what every country aims for. Equality for all the people, equality for at least the basic rights, like right to education. It's a basic right. Everybody should have access to better education, right? So he achieved wealth redistribution because people who were rich were paying, they didn't want to see the ads. Okay, they wanted a seamless experience. So they started paying for the app because they didn't want ads. So they watched the videos, they watched they could consume all the content that Duolingo was offering for learning a language without any ads. And those people who could not, afford the money, they said like, okay, we'll just watch the ads. At least we are getting the content for free. So by this, he achieved this equality. Okay, he raised money from people who could pay for those ads. Okay, and he used it to invest it in his business and provide better services to those people who are not able to pay for it. Okay, so that's how his business, his app, it runs on a wealth redistribution model. Okay, then sixth is he made broccoli taste like dessert. So what he's saying is he has to compete with other apps. Okay, so Duolingo is not the only app. Okay, there are other apps that he has to compete with that are really popular, like Instagram. There is Facebook, there is Snapchat, there is TikTok, and all. So he has to compete with all these apps, and it's difficult because all the people, they are hooked to these apps. Everybody's hooked to Instagram and Facebook. We are like rolling the reels from one to another for like 2 hours continuously. Okay. And after those 2 hours, you know that you have wasted that time, but you're still wasting that time because you're addicted to it. Okay. Because the content is quite engaging. Okay. You keep having those notifications and all, and it distracts you. Right. So on one hand, there is broccoli, and on other hand, there is dessert. that these Facebook and this Facebook and Instagram and all these apps are offering. Okay, because they have beautified everything. Whereas on the other hand, there is there is education that they are trying to provide. So it's quite healthy. So it's like broccoli. Okay, so that's how he has made this comparison. Okay, sorry for the interruption. I just had to get the door because no one was home, so I had to get the door. So sorry. Okay, so where were we? Yeah, the analogy of broccoli and dessert. So because he made this comparison, broccoli and we compared broccoli with dessert. He was able to grab the attention of his audience. Okay, everybody knows how healthy broccoli is, but nobody wants to, really eat it. If you have a broccoli and you have an ice cream, you will obviously want an ice cream because that's much tastier. Okay, so yeah, and again, interesting analogy and really great use at the right time in his speech. Okay, because what he's trying to convey is, the way he's competing with his competitors, he's using the same techniques, but he understands his audience as well. He says that people want to be disturbed with the notifications that can be annoying and spamming for other apps, but not for him, because they would like to be disturbed if they're learning something from that app. Okay, they're learning a new language, so they're like, they might forget while scrolling on Instagram and scrolling on Facebook. They might forget that they have to like really learn, and they want to learn a new language. But when they receive a notification from Duolingo, they are reminded that those lessons are waiting for you. And they also implemented this new strategy where they have this uh, streak, right? They use these streak model. Okay, what do? uh, they try to make the process of learning a game. They gamified the process of learning. Okay, and I always implore on all of you to really enjoy the learning process, because when you enjoy the learning, you retain more. Okay, if we teach kids in a fun way, they learn more. It's a proven study, right? So that's what he used. He gamified the process. And people, they have a streak of people in Japan, they have a streak of 365 days. Can you imagine if you're learning something new every day? You have 365 things that you have learned in a year. That's not less. That's quite good. From a beginner, you can come to an intermediate level in any language if you keep learning for 365 days. And that's what I tell all of you to do, to be consistent. Like I'm striking two stones with one arrow using this video today. Because I'm telling you the importance of consistency that I always ask you to do, to practice consistency in your life, to read every single day, to write a journal every single day. I don't know how many people, or how many of you are doing it. I receive I receive photos from some of my students who keep sending me pics, like of the notes that they have written. And some of you are like passive consumers of knowledge, and you know who you are. I'm not trying to point out anybody, but if you're consistent or if you're not. If you're not consistent, just try to be more consistent, okay, in whatever you are trying to learn. Okay, and language is one thing you can't learn in a day or a month or a year. It's a monthly process. I'm still learning. I'm learning every single day. Okay, so next thing that I really learned from like his video is um the way he cracked this AI joke. Did you all get the joke? Before we started this before I started this video, I asked all of you to pay attention to his jokes. Why? Because when you're conversing with native speakers, generally we don't get their jokes. Okay, we are too serious because we are just concentrating on what he's saying. If you can be so relaxed, Okay, when will you understand, when will you identify that you are fluent in English? It's going to be when you're going to be relaxed watching an English video without any subtitles, and you're going to get all the jokes. First, you'll need to watch all the English videos with subtitles. Okay, when you start getting jokes with subtitles, start watching those videos without subtitles. Okay, it will take some time, but it'll make you more natural at speaking English and conversing with people. Okay, because you can't go in all the situations crammed up and ready with words and phrases. You can't do that. That's not how life works. That's not how real life situations are going to work out for you, right? So that is the power of listening again. And the eighth joke that he cracked was passive aggressive. Okay, that he was, he was sending for 7 days, if nobody, like clicked on the app and learned something, if they didn't go in the app and attended any kind of like exercises or anything, they would send a notification that since you're not attending any workshop, any of the exercises, or you're not using the app, we'll stop sending you these notifications. So what effect does it have? It just has the opposite effect, the complete opposite effect, because it makes people go back to the app, go back to learning. Okay, this like this pushes his customers to be consistent in their learning. Okay, and every teacher has to do that, like your mother. And he compared it with his mother. He compared this practice with his mother, because what does mother do? They ask their children to eat its lunch time, eat its breakfast time, eat its dinner time, but the kid does not want to eat. Okay, so what does the kid say? No, mama, I don't want to eat, I don't want to eat. So what does the mother do? Okay, fine, don't eat it. She takes away the food. So after some time, when the kid is really hungry, he'll himself ask for food. He'll beg for food if you don't give him the food, because it's a necessity. Okay, if you're hungry, you'll need to eat, right? So it's the best negative reinforcement that we use with kids. And like that's why he joked about it. It works for his mother, and it works for his clients. It works for his customers. Okay, so you should know your customer. Okay, that's another technique that my coaches have taught me. Like you should know your customer avatar. Okay, you should know who your customer is. Like it's important, like if you're running a business, this technique will be important for you. Like if you're a mother, I think this will be important for you. If you are a student, this thing will be important for you. If nobody is paying attention to what you are doing right now, you have to make it like you have to make your content or whatever product that you're selling wanted. You have to create a demand for it as well. Okay, because if you're giving anything for free, people don't value it. They value it only when they have to pay for it. Okay, and he's making his customers pay in a very different way, because he wants his knowledge, because he wants his courses to be accessible to the people. He's making those his courses accessible to poor people. Okay, and he wants it to continue. So he's just charging for the ads. He's not charging for the course. He's being very intelligent about it. Okay, so I think we all can learn from his approach, right? Yeah, I'll start sharing the screen again. And I think you found this video quite interesting. I have another video lined up for you. We'll just have one more video, and then we are going to like wrap up after we discuss about that video. Like it's a speech by Shashi Tharoor, and it'll be quite informative. And trust me, it can be hard for a few of you. So that's why you can play and pause. Okay, those of you who are watching this recording, you can play and pause. Okay, because I have provided videos that have subtitles in them as well. That's why I have provided these videos, so that it will be easier for you to grasp. Okay, so if there's some at some point, if you feel like you're not able to grasp what the other person is saying, what the other person is trying to convey, you can just play and pause. Okay, so I'll just give me a minute. I'll share my screen with you. So this is a speech by Shashi Tharoor, and just be ready because some great words are coming your way. Shashi Tharoor has been a voracious reader his entire life, and you can see that in his language. The way he speaks and the way he writes, you can just, it reflects it in his personality. That's what I'm going to say. So it's his video is about a well-educated man versus a well-formed mind. Okay, a well-educated mind versus a well-formed mind. Okay, so let's start the video and keep your pen and paper ready. Okay, I want you all to take your key learnings. I want all of you to note them. Okay, and also note the words that you find are really like new to you. Okay, everything for you at the end of this video. Okay, I'm noting as well, and you also note.
I'm here to talk to you about Indian education, higher education in particular, but I'm actually going to start with demography. How many of you here are under 35? Okay, that seems pretty representative of the country. 65% of India is under 35. How many of you are under 25? Okay, then you're not so representative because actually...
So, okay, this video is from like 2013, December 2013. So you might feel like, you know, things that he's saying is already, they are already happening. Okay, so just giving you a little context so you have a better understanding. Okay, it is a 2013 video, December 2013. Okay, some political context as well, like 2014 Modi came into power, right? And after that, a lot of things have changed, and the things that he's saying are going to happen, they have actually happened. Okay, like in terms of education, he's talking about Indian education system, especially higher education, right? So I mean, you'll all be able to like identify yourself with the scenario that he's trying to portray. Okay.
We have half the Indian population pretty much under 25. We are an amazingly young country. In fact, if you just take the age group from 10 to 19, there are 226 million Indians poised, in other words, to enter higher education, going through school and ready for higher education. Now, this is amazing because it's happening at a time when the rest of the world is aging, right? If you look at the average age in India today, it's 28. Of course, don't ask about the gap, since we heard about gaps between the average age of the Indian person and of the Indian cabinet. I think we hold the world record for that.
Okay, so he's, I think, talking about some previous speaker that has already spoken on stage, right? So he's not the only speaker. Like in, I think, one sitting, many speakers speak at a TEDx talk. So he's talking about a speaker that has spoken before him, right? I'm going to play and pause so that you know, I think I'll be able to give you a better context. Okay.
But that's another matter. That's another TED talk, right? But what you've got with this average age is a time when the rest of the world is changing. So by 2020, the average age in Japan is going to be 47. In China, it's going to be heading well past 40. Europe, 46. The United States, youthful US, also 40. And India's average age is going to be 29. So we are potentially the people who are the youthful, productive, dynamic, young population ready to work and transform the world. The kinds of role that, say, China played in the last generation could be ours in the next. In fact, the International Labour Organization has worked out that by 2020, we'll have 116 million people in the age group of starting work. 20 to 24 is what they calculate. And China will only have 94 million at the same time. So we really are poised to do that. But, and by the way...
So what he's trying to convey is we'll be having a good working population by 2020, and we are like in 2024. Okay, and we have like young population. The average age of an Indian is 29 today, right? So we have a youth that is running the country, and we have youth that is ready to work, and that's a good thing, and that's a challenging thing for India as well, because if we don't provide the right resources, right jobs for these people, like we are facing a difficult problem. Okay, because these Indians, they are going to work not only in India but outside the country. If you empower these people are going to be an asset for the country. If you don't empower these people, they are going to be a liability for the country. Right? That's what he's trying to convey by this. Okay, he's trying to convey the gap that, China earlier had a younger population, but now India is going to have a younger population. Okay, that's why we are like getting ahead nowadays, because with the right resources, the younger generation is making amazing changes in these countries. And especially like you see, I'm seeing so many uh, people who are pass outs of IITs and IIMs, and they have left high paying jobs to start good businesses in India. Okay, so our brain drain is also reducing, I feel. Earlier we had this brain drain where everybody wanted to move out of India and work outside, work abroad, like in US, UK, and everywhere. But today I'm seeing this shift. Okay, where everybody wants to start a business here in India. I think this is because of this I think this is because of this initiative, this Main India initiative our Prime Minister has started, that everybody wants to be an entrepreneur today. Okay, so this is a new word for you, that these entrepreneurial skills. You can note these words: entrepreneurial skills, entrepreneur, enterprising people. Okay, and you can use these words. This is a vocabulary that you have around this topic. Okay, so try to note the topic that you are hearing today and the vocabulary that you learn around that topic. Okay, this is how you build a rich vocabulary. Okay, I'll share my screen again. So what he's saying is, so we really are poised to do that. Poised means we are waiting, patiently waiting to do that. We are all ready, on our toes, to do that, to lead the country, to lead businesses, organizations, because we have a young population. Okay, that is ready with qualifications, and if that population is ready with good qualification, okay, that is effective, that knows how to apply their knowledge, okay, it's going to work wonders. It's going to make a lot of changes, right?
Other countries will have a serious deficit. It's estimated that the US will have 17 million short in terms of how many people they need at working age. We in India have the people, but do we have the ability to equip the people to take advantage of this, to be the workhorse or the work engine for the world? See, we get it right, we educate and train them.
So what we are going to be the workforce and work engine for the world, because the other countries are going to have a deficit, right? The other countries, they are going to have a deficit of the workforce, and they need someone to run the country, right? Old people can't do that much work as much as the young generation can do, and the old generation is going to retire soon. How much work are you going to squeeze out of them? Okay, young people, they are more energetic, they are much more enthusiastic, so they can really take the leadership roles. It's better if young people have the leadership role, and the old people, they have the guidance and consulting post at the time goes. Okay, that is really helpful. I'll start sharing the screen again. I know I'm playing and pausing again and again, but that is only to help you and give you a better understanding.
We really transform not just our own economy and our society, but the world. If we get it wrong, the demographic dividend I'm talking about becomes a demographic disaster, because we've already seen in 165.
So what he's trying to say, the gap that I told you, that if this working population, this young working population that we have in our country, it's not only going to change our country, our society, it is going to change the world. Because when other countries are going to have a deficit, you can't consume all the young people only in this country. Suppose you start a business and you decide to go global, like like if you're going online today, if you're doing online business, like country is not the limit. You can target multiple kind of audience. You can target audience from multiple cultures, multiple countries, right? So country is not the limit. When you're doing online business, and online is like everybody is online today. Every person is online. Every business is online today, right? So that's what he's talking about. He's saying that if this resource that we have, this young population we have, if we don't hone their skills really well, owning their skills means perfecting their skills well. If we don't provide them with the right resources, the right qualifications, and the right jobs, good paying jobs, if we don't provide them with the good paying jobs and good business environment for them, then this demographic dividend means the dividend that the benefit that these people are going to give, it is going to turn into a demographic liability, a demographic disaster it is going to turn into, because those people they won't have the necessary skills to implement their learnings, right? And this is what is happening. That's what he's going to tell you ahead in this video, that that is what is happening. Infosys has a huge campus where it's not just a campus for the people who are working. It's a campus for those people who are working and they are learning as well on the job, because they are trying to fill the gap that the gap that the proficiency, that the kind of proficiency that their organization needs, and the kind of proficiency they have with the kind of qualifications, with their existing qualifications. Okay, they don't have the proficiency that is required for the job. They have the qualification, they have the right qualification, but they don't have the right exposure. They don't know how to apply it in their real lives, right? So that's what he's talking about. That's the divide, that's the gap he's talking about right now. That's the gap that we have. I think it's still there, a little bit of it still there. We are working on it, and a lot of like institutions and organizations are giving a hands-on experience today, but still. And the vocational training has also come. Like he's going to talk about that, the government is going to introduce vocational training soon, and they have introduced vocational training, but like a lot of work still needs to be done. But yeah, we have taken the first step there, but there is a long way to go still. Okay, let's begin again.
5 of our 625 districts. What happens when unemployed, frustrated, undereducated young men become prey to the blandishments of the Maoists and prey to the gun and the bullet. So education in our country is not just a social or economic issue, it's even a national security issue. We've got to equip our people to take advantage of what the 21st century offers them. Now, this is the story in a nutshell. 4 E's. Expansion was...
Nutshell, what does nutshell mean? Story in a nutshell means it's a summary. Okay, उसने एक छोटे फॉर्म में आपको एक शॉर्ट करके ब्रीफ करके एक स्टोरी सुनाई. So it's a brief of the story. Okay, a summary of the story. That's why he has used the word nutshell. That's what nutshell means. In the nutshell, I mean, like that's how you speak. That's how you use the word nutshell. A new word for you all.
Our first priority in education. Why? Because the British, and I won't even ask if any of you here, left us in 1947 with a 16% literacy rate. Okay, there were only 400,000, 4 lakh students in the entire country in higher education.
So what he's talking about, 4 E's. These are the 4 challenges that our country faced on our journey to like better education. Okay, better and equal education. These are the challenges that we have today. Okay, we had very few universities, we had very few schools, we had a low literacy rate. Okay, हमारे भारत को सोने की चिड़िया कहा जाता था, right? बट क्योंकि हमारी यहाँ पे लिटरेसी बहुत अच्छी थी, वेल्थ बहुत अच्छी थी, कंट्री का जीडीपी बहुत अच्छा था, और जब ब्रिटिशर्स हमारी कंट्री को छोड़ के गए, तब हमारी लिटरेसी रेट बहुत ही कम थी, बहुत ही ज्यादा कम थी, बहुत ही ज्यादा. आई डोंट नो, लाइक it was GDP was like around 97% or something before जब हमें सोने की चिड़िया कहा था, before the advent of like Britishers, and after they left, like it was merely 10-20%. I think 10% is also more. It was even less than that. Okay.
We had 26 universities, fewer than 700 colleges. So obviously expansion was essential. We've gone right from that 16% to 74% literacy today. We've gone from 26 universities to 650 universities. We've gone from those 400,000 students, 4 lakh students, to 20 million students in higher education today. And we have 35,000 colleges as well, instead of the 700 colleges we had then. So expansion's taken place. We've also had to fight for the second E of equity, that is, including the excluded from education, trying to reach out to the unreached, the people who didn't get a fair shake in education for reasons they couldn't help. Gender, an obvious reason. When we had that 16% literacy rate, you know what the female literacy rate was? 8.9% at the time of independence. Just 1 out of 11 Indian women could read and write. Caste, region, religion, all sorts of people got left out the system. We had to bring them in. And that became a big challenge and a priority for education.
So the first E was expansion, because we have very few colleges and schools left. The Britishers really destroyed our education system. They didn't build their education system. The so-called Macaulay system is quite regressive. It actually destroyed our traditional education system, which was quite progressive at that time. Our gurukuls, they provided education on every subject that we are studying today in a much better way, you know. And the second E that he's talking about is equity. So first was we had to build all those lost universities and colleges. We have to reclaim that, that kind of power we had in education at that time, in that ancient India had. So that's what was needed with the expansion. Then second is equity. Like when Britishers left, a lot of people were left out of the education system. Like 1 in 11 women could read and write. Right now, it's like 1 in 3 women, I think. So still, a long way to go. Our literacy rate, I think female literacy rate is around 60% right now. So we still need to work more. There is still a gap. So what we have to work, we have worked on, and we still have to work on is equity, like including the unreached people, okay, to give them proper education.
In getting those two things more or less right, I don't know how well we did on the third E, which is the E of excellence. Obviously, you need quality, and we set about setting up institutions of great quality in our country. The IITs are a good example. In fact, it's part of Jawaharlal Nehru's vision that the IIT in Kharagpur was established back in 1956, the year I was born, and it was done on the site of a British detention center, the Hijli Detention Center. So a symbol of political oppression became instead a symbol of hope, of technology, of looking to the future. But for the IITs, the IIMs, a few good institutions, I'm sure you can all pick your few around the country, these have tended to be islands of excellence floating on a sea of mediocrity. The average Indian...
Did you just pay attention to the phrases he used right now? Like IITs.
In getting those two things more or less right, I don't know how well we did on the third E, which is the E of excellence. Obviously, you need quality, and we set about setting up institutions of great quality in our country. The IITs are a good example. In fact, it's part of Jawaharlal Nehru's vision that the IIT in Kharagpur was established back in 1956, the year I was born, and it was done on the site of a British detention center, the Hijli Detention Center. So a symbol of political oppression became instead a symbol of hope, of technology, of looking to the future. But for the IITs, the IIMs, a few good institutions, I'm sure you can all pick your few around the country, these have tended to be islands of excellence floating on a sea of mediocrity.
Good
the average Indian...
to all, not just a few. Okay, it's good that we have institutions like IITs, but it's lying on a sea of mediocrity. But all the institutions around them, they don't even match up to IITs. You can't say that the divide between IIT and the other universities is quite high. Okay, so we have to reduce this divide. Okay, so that a person from IIT gets good jobs and everything, but a person from other university is also able to do good. Okay, he's also able to progress better in his life. He can also get better jobs after learning some new things, other new things. Okay, he should have the aptitude and the ability to raise himself up to this level. Okay, but they don't even have this aptitude. Why? Because you didn't develop it, because the gap was too high. Okay,
higher education institution is simply not of the quality that you and I, all of us in this audience, would like to see. And that ties into the fourth E that I've added to this catechism.
Catechism. What does catechism means? A new word. And that ties to the fourth E I have added to this catechism. Catechism means oral instruction. He's giving an oral instruction right now, right? So that's how he has used this word catechism. Look at his use of vocabulary. He knew this word, but look at the way he has used it in such passive form. You won't even realize that he has used a new word, and you don't even know its meaning. But if you really just think of the context in which he has used, if you say, and that ties into the fourth E I have added to this catechism. You are saying catechism अगर आपको मीनिंग नहीं भी पता है तो आप ये सोच सकते हैं ठीक है, ये जो कुछ बता रहा है, कुछ गाइडेंस कुछ बता रहा है, इसने कुछ ये जो डेवलप किया है, ये 4 E's इसने अपनी अपनी नॉलेज से शेयर कर रहा है ना। ये जो 4 E's ये शेयर कर रहे हैं शशि थरूर जी, ये अपनी नॉलेज से शेयर कर रहे हैं। ठीक है, इन्होंने कहीं पर पढ़े नहीं है, ये इन्होंने अपनी नॉलेज, अपने एक्सपीरियंस और अपनी रिसर्च से इन 4 E's को लिस्ट किया है यहाँ पर। तो दीज आर हिज इंस्ट्रक्शंस, दीज आर हिज नॉलेज दैट ही इज शेयरिंग विद यू ऑल। तो आप थोड़ा आइडिया लगा सकते हैं कि कैटेकिज्म का यहाँ क्या मीनिंग है, इवन इफ यू डोंट नो द मीनिंग। दैट इज द पावर ऑफ अ गुड स्पीकर। आप अगर डिफिकल्ट वर्ड्स भी यूज करें तो लोग समझ सके कि आप क्या बोलना चाह रहे हैं। एंड दैट्स द एबिलिटी ऑफ अ गुड लिसनर, कि वो उसे एनालाइज कर पाए, so that a good listener can infer, can make that inference कि ये जो इंसान बोलना चाह रहा है क्या बोलना चाह रहा है, इस वर्ड का मीनिंग मुझे एग्जैक्टली तो नहीं पता, बट अराउंड तो ये होगा, प्रोबेबली ये मीनिंग होगा। ठीक है, आपको हर बार ये लिबर्टी नहीं होगी आपके पास कि आप गूगल कर ले या डिक्शनरी में ढूंढ ले कि किसी वर्ड का मीनिंग क्या है, बट आप में एबिलिटी होनी चाहिए किसी कॉन्वर्सेशन को सुन के कि इंसान क्या बोलना चाह रहा होगा, राइट? So the fourth E that he has added to his catechism is employability. Okay.
Employability. Talk to employers, talk to CEOs. What do they tell you? That they're simply not satisfied with the quality of the graduates they're getting. Even in the T of TED, the technological area, engineering graduates. You have 500,000 engineering graduates a year. But if you talk, for example, to the Federation of Indian Chambers of Commerce and Industry, they did a survey. 64% of employers are not satisfied with the quality.
So the Chamber of Indian Commerce, they did a survey, they did a research, and they found that 64% of the employers, they are not satisfied with the quality of graduates that they are getting. Okay, so we are having a lot of graduates. We have the young population that has completed their higher education and is moving towards jobs. But are they really employable? No, the companies feel that they don't have the necessary skills. They have the knowledge, maybe they have the degree, but they can't handle the job. There is still a gap. And we need to understand why this gap exists and how we can fill this gap. What kind of resources, what kind of knowledge, what kind of training we can provide to our graduates so they are well equipped to face the real world. Right? The more we work on it, the better our workforce is going to be.
Of graduates they're getting. Some companies are running essentially re-education places. Infosys has a gigantic campus in Mysore, and it's not on the job.
The gigantic campus in Mysore. Gigantic means बहुत ही बड़ा, huge campus. Infosys का एक बहुत ही बड़ा कैंपस है मैसूर में, जहाँ पे वो ट्रेनिंग प्रोवाइड करता है अपने एम्प्लॉयज को, हैंड्स ऑन लर्निंग प्रोवाइड करते हैं, क्योंकि उन्हें लगता है कि उनके पास जो डिग्री है वो है, लेकिन फिर भी उन्हें लगता है कि अभी अगर हम चाहते हैं कि इन ग्रेजुएट्स को हम अपनी कंपनी में इनटेक करें, हम लें, तो इनके पास ये नॉलेज होनी चाहिए, और ये नॉलेज इनके कॉलेज ने प्रोवाइड नहीं करी है, बट या दे आर केपेबल। इन लोगों में इतनी कैपेबिलिटी है कि ये नॉलेज को गेन कर सकते हैं, तो हम इन्हें ये नॉलेज देंगे। क्योंकि ऑफ कोर्स रिसोर्सेज ग्रेजुएट्स तो उनके पास भी इंडिया से ही आएंगे और उन्होंने बेस्ट ग्रेजुएट्स लिए हैं. ट्रस्ट मी, इन्फोसिस के अंदर ओनली बेस्ट कैंडिडेट्स कैन गेट इनटू दैट काइंड ऑफ अ कंपनी. बट उनको पता है कि अगर उनके पास वो नॉलेज नहीं है और वो 10 और लोगों को ले लेंगे, नए लोगों को, तो उनके पास भी इतनी नॉलेज होगी. तो इट्स बेटर टू ट्रेन दीज पीपल, राइट. बट एक कंपनी के ऊपर एक एक्स्ट्रा लाइबिलिटी है ये कि उनको इतना पैसा लगाना पड़ रहा है उनको वापस से ट्रेन करने का. इट्स वेस्ट ऑफ टाइम फॉर दोज यंग पीपल, क्योंकि उनको वहां स्कूल कॉलेज में यूनिवर्सिटीज में वो नहीं सिखाया गया जो उन्हें वहां सीखना चाहिए था. वो वहां रह गया. उनका उस जॉब में आने के बाद वेस्टेज ऑफ टाइम है, क्योंकि उन्हें दोबारा पढ़ना पड़ रहा है. उन्हें दोबारा लर्निंग के लिए टाइम डिवोट करना पड़ रहा है. सी, काम करते करते लर्निंग के लिए टाइम डिवोट करना पड़े वो अलग है, पर आपको काम करना स्टार्ट करना पड़े उससे पहले आपको एक ट्रेनिंग देनी पड़े, विच इज मोर देन एन ओरिएंटेशन ट्रेनिंग. दैट इज अ डिफरेंट थिंग ऑल टुगेदर. ओरिएंटेशन ट्रेनिंग अलग होती है. ओरिएंटेशन ट्रेनिंग इज डिफरेंट. बट आपको पूरा का पूरी नॉलेज हैंड्स ऑन ट्रेनिंग देनी पड़ रही है कि आपको रियल लाइफ रियल सिचुएशंस के बारे में बिल्कुल नहीं पता. सो व्हाई आवर एजुकेशन सिस्टम इज क्वाइट थियोरेटिकल राइट नाउ. It's not practical. There needs to be more practicalness to the education that we are having, right?
Training, which big companies tend to do. It is, in fact, really a full year's education for the people they've already hired to make up for the deficiencies of what they've learned and not properly learned in college. Now, that's the scale of the challenge that we face. What are we doing about it? A great deal needs to be done. Of course,
Scale of the challenge means challenge किस level का है. Okay, उसके लिए उसने ये phrase use किया, scale of the challenge that we are facing today. Okay, okay, अब उसके लिए क्या efforts कर रहे हैं हम लोग उस challenge को face करने के लिए, उस challenge को meet out करने के लिए, उस challenge को mitigate करने के लिए. What kind of efforts the government, the country is putting into. Okay, what kind of efforts the country is putting. Okay,
we are trying to put in kids into the system at an early age. The RTE, the Right to Education Act. If kids were out of school in the old days, it was their parents' fault. Today, if they're out of school, it's the state's fault. The government is committed to actually getting them an education. We've got more and more money being pumped in by the system at all levels. For example, many of you may have gone to prestigious universities. Lots of people in India don't. They go to state universities, which are grossly underfinanced. We've come up with a scheme to pump central money into the state universities so they actually have resources to do something with the students they have there. Money isn't the whole answer. There is an entire challenge in terms of addressing things like the gender gap. That's a gap that, despite what the earlier speaker said, we don't want to embrace, right? It's a gap we must overcome. Right now, women's literacy is 66%, better than the 8.9, but still means that, 1 out of every 3 Indian women still can't read and write. We have to overcome that. We need to catch the ones who've been left out of the net. Adult literacy, huge challenge. I went off to a village in Tamil Nadu, not far from.
so what he's trying to say, adult literacy is still a challenge. I mean, the people who have been left out of the system earlier, they also have to be educated. If you want to improve the standard of living, like of the people in your country, adult literacy is another challenge. जैसे कि हमारे दादा दादी हैं, वो नहीं पढ़े, बट उनको लिटरेसी कैसे प्रोवाइड करी जाए so that they have a better life. ये भी एक चैलेंज है आज की तारीख में हमारी कंट्री के अंदर, because there are people who are 60-70 years old and उनको वो एजुकेशन नहीं मिली जो हमें मिली. ठीक है, वो एक्चुअली हमारे ग्रैंड पेरेंट्स की एज हो गई एक तरह से. ठीक है, हमारे पेरेंट्स के पास एक मॉडरेट एजुकेशन थी, उन्होंने हमें एजुकेशन दी. ठीक है, बट हमारे दादा दादी जो बिल्कुल सिस्टम से बाहर रह गए, उन्हें अब कैसे फैसिलिटेट करते हैं, उसमें वोकेशनल ट्रेनिंग बहुत काम आई, जो कि आगे बताएंगे, शशि जी आगे बताएंगे. धन्यवाद.
Kanjivaram, and I met women who in their 50s and 60s were learning to read and write. And people think sometimes, what's the point? Some of their own family members, their husbands think, what's the point? The answer is it changes their lives. It empowers them in real ways. I spoke to...
What's the point means? इसका क्या मतलब है कि जब 50 और 60 साल की औरतें पढ़ना सीख रही हैं, लिखना सीख रही हैं, तो उनके हस्बैंड क्या क्वेश्चन करते हैं कि अब तो निकल गई उम्र, अब क्या मतलब है पढ़ने का? What's the point of you learning to read and write now? right? So listen to the answer of this woman, Chitramani, who answers it beautifully, कि आपको समझ में आएगा कि उसके पढ़ने से होता क्या है, कि एजुकेशन से एक्चुअली होता क्या है, इस एग्जाम्पल के थ्रू ये कन्वे करना चाह रहे हैं. ओके जो लोग ये कहते हैं कि अब क्या फर्क पड़ता है, अब तो उम्र निकल गई, उम्र कभी नहीं निकलती है पढ़ने की. ओके देयर इज नो एज फॉर लर्निंग, यू कैन लर्न एट एनी एज. ओके लर्निंग इज समथिंग दैट शुड happen till you die. Okay because if you don't learn something today, you'll have to take another birth to learn it. That's what I believe in.
A woman called Chitramani, who told me, proudly wrote her name in Tamil on a piece of paper. And I said, so what does being able to read mean and read and write mean to you? And she said, now I can see the destination of the bus, where it's going. I don't have to ask somebody where that bus is going. I know where I can go. When I get to the big city of Kanchipuram, I can read the street signs. I can find where I need to go. I don't feel helpless anymore. That kind of, that empowerment is what literacy gives people in a very fundamental.
So what does literacy provide? What does literacy provides people? It provides them empowerment to pursue whatever they want to pursue. Now earlier, if Chitramani had to travel, she had to ask other passengers, she had to ask other like people standing on the bus station, that where is this bus going. Okay some people might tell, some people might not tell. Okay some people might ignore, but now she can read for herself. She is not dependent on anyone, she is independent, she can travel on her own, right? So she can pursue what, if she is, suppose if she is a simple labor, she can at least travel to a place of work independently without the fear of getting lost. Okay so it's empowering her to work, to move out of her home and earn something, earn a living, earn her bread and butter, right?
And real way. And we're trying to do that, of course, for those who've dropped out early on in the days before we got to that 74%. The younger kids, we've got them into school now. We have something called a gross enrollment ratio, the percentage of children of a certain age, of the age appropriate for a particular level of education. Well, at primary school now, our gross enrollment ratio is 116%. We've actually enrolled more kids than we thought existed at that age group, because some of the older ones are coming in too. Bad news is, as you go up the level, it starts dropping. So by the 8th grade, I'm afraid it's down to 69%. By the 10th grade, 39%. And by college, our gross enrollment ratio is about 18% against a global average of 29%. So clearly, we still need to do more. Our expansion hasn't gone enough. We haven't.
So we have enrolled a lot of students at young age because of right to education. The state is enrolling a lot of students to school in their early classes. But what happens in higher classes, the children, they drop out because of financial conditions or something. Children's are it's a wrong word. Children are dropping out of school. Students are dropping out of school, which is not right. It means that they are not pursuing higher education. Their chances of being employable in the coming years are quite less. So we might have a younger population, but what's the use of that younger population if it's not even educated properly, right?
Managed to get everyone to stay in the system. Some of them actually need vocational training. They're not all going to become white-collar clerks or officials or IAS officers, right? So we need to try and catch them and get them into vocational training. But how do you do that in a culture where for 3,000 years, if you wanted to be a cobbler or a carpenter, you better have an uncle or a father who's a cobbler or a carpenter, because nobody else is going to teach you. The transmission of knowledge of tradecraft in our country has always been through the gene pool. So one of the reasons why the sons of politicians tend to be politicians also, And a Bollywood movie stars, same story. So we need to get master craftsmen in. Why is it with a country of 1.2 billion people that we should have a nationwide shortage of masons, of plumbers, of certified electricians?
And another thing that I would like to emphasize here, he's like cracking jokes here and there. He's being sarcastic here and there in his speech, okay? So, and when he's being sarcastic, when he's cracking a joke, his audience is laughing. That's a sign that your audience is connecting with you. Okay, that's when you know that you are able to communicate well with your audience. Okay, when you crack a joke and the other person laughs, it means the other person is getting what you're saying. They can connect with you, right? This is a signal. It's an indication. If you're able to convey your thoughts really well, okay? And you need to look out for these cues, okay? I want you all to, note these cues, okay? You can use them in your speaking later on.
We need to get more vocational training into the system. We're doing that. We're now rolling out the whole concept of community colleges so that kids can go in, have some academic learning, lots of vocational training, and at the end of 2 years, if they show tremendous academic promise, they can go back to a university. If not, they leave with a 2-year certificate and they go off and do a useful trade in a society that is clamoring for these skills. So these are the kinds of changes that we are trying to bring about and move along.
Clamoring for these skills is a society that is clamoring for these skills. So our plan is to provide an education where there is a lot of vocational training and some of academic training. So when a kid is showing academic promise, they can go for higher education, and if they don't, they can at least go for some kind of vocational, because of the vocational training they had, they can do some local craft work. Okay, they can start a business of their own using that. They can at least work, earn a living. Okay, they won't stay unemployed. Okay, that is the benefit of vocational training, and it's a kind of skill that the society is clamoring for. Clamoring means it's waiting for. Society really they really need people who can do those jobs for them. Okay, not every IAS officer is going to fix a pipe or something. You need people for that. You need workforce for that. Okay.
But there's a change that the government alone can't do. If you look at the need for research and innovation, you've heard a lot of that, I'm sure, in the course of the TED Talks. Research is something which the government wants to double the amount of money it's spending on research from 1% of GDP to 2%. We haven't had the money to pump into it yet. But innovation requires new ways of thinking. I heard you had a talk about hyperthinking. I missed it. But new ways of thinking mean learning to think out of the box, learning to create. I know we're famous for jugaad, right? You Google the words frugal innovation, and the top 20 hits will all relate to Indian inventions. We've invented the world's cheapest electrocardiogram, the simplest and cheapest EKG, the cheapest insulin injection, the world's cheapest small car, the Tata Nano. All that's come. But all these have been things invented elsewhere that we have stripped down, made more affordable, more replicable, more relevant to our conditions. We need to do things that others haven't done before, which we used to do in our culture. We're the land that invented the zero. Remember how the Romans used to write their numerals in long strings of letters? Until an Indian thought of the idea of zero, emerging from the notion of shunyata in Hindu and Buddhist thinking. And that came into the zero, shunya, which transformed global mathematics. We need to think like that again. We need to come up with ideas. We have 17% of the world's brains. Why do we only have 2.8% of the world's research output coming out of our country? Well,
so what he's trying to convey here, so what he's trying to convey here is our country has is comprised of 17.8% of the world brains, but we don't contribute that much to research and development. So the contribution needs to be equal. Okay. We need to contribute more on research and development. We need to do things that others have not done yet. Okay, we need to enter those fields as well. Okay, that's what he's trying to convey. Right? I'll start sharing my screen again. Okay.
Perhaps we need to start in the classroom. Get our kids not just to have their heads filled full of facts and textbook materials and teachers' lectures, because frankly that gives you a well-filled mind. But in the era of the internet, you don't need a well-filled mind. You've got Google, right? You can find out anything you want with 2 clicks of the mouse. What you need is a well-formed mind. a mind that reacts to unfamiliar facts and details, that can actually synthesize information that it hasn't studied before. A mind, in other words, that can react to the bigger examination called life, which doesn't actually only give you things you've prepared for. And for that, you need a mind that's shaped by original thinking, a mind that doesn't just ask the teacher why, but why not. I've actually had a little experience of out-of-the-box thinking myself. I wear glasses. I don't need them to read. I don't need them to see you folks on the front. But if I want to catch somebody in the back row there, I have to look through glasses. But because I hardly ever wear them, I keep losing or breaking them. I shove them in a pocket bag against a wall or something, they crack. I put them on a lap. When I get up, they fall down. Somebody steps on them, they break. In the first 3 months of this year, I lost or broke 6 pairs of glasses. So I was telling a friend about this. And he said, simple solution. Why can't you think of that? I said, look, there is no easy solution because for 150 years, glasses have been made in one way, right? They're joined together at the center and they hang over your ears. That's what I find inconvenient, so I take them off. And he said, no, we'll find a different way. You can reimagine glasses in a way that they're not going to hang over your ears or be joined in the middle. And this is what he did. I'm wearing them right now, and if I want to see anybody at the back, I just pull that together, like 2 magnets in the middle that click together, and I can see you all at the back. Now, it's a silly example, perhaps, but it's an example of how one can think out of the box. Familiar objects can be thought of in ways they haven't been thought of before. And that way, we can move forward in the world. I have no doubt that the challenges are enormous. There is simply no question that here, in our country, we have to become literate. But there is one piece of good news. 95% of our 12-year-olds across India can read and write. So the future looks good. And as far as the workforce is concerned, if we can get all these other pieces in place, we can say to the rest of the world, we're coming. Thank you very much.
Okay, so this is the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed listening to Shashi Tharoor's video. It was a TEDx video, and it was quite informative for me. And we have so many thoughts on our present education system, but we cannot really summarize them. I think Shashi Tharoor summarized it for all of us really well. Okay, the present situation of our education system and what are the improvements that we need to make in our present education system to compete with the rest of the world. I think he summarized it so well. And we learned so many new words like catechism. And, I told you all those words, all those phrases. I explained all of them to you in between the video. I paused and I played. And that's how you have to listen to all the English videos. Okay, that's how you'll be able to, learn something from those videos. Immerse yourself in those videos. Don't just passively listen. Okay, try to notice, be conscious about what you're listening. Okay, how you're listening, how the other person is speaking, not just what they're speaking, how they're speaking. Okay, the figures of speech that they use, everything. Try and notice everything. Play, pause, note. Okay, practice, consistent. That's what you need. So this is the end of my listening workshop today, and I hope you all enjoyed it really well. I know there was an interruption in between, and I'm sorry for that. But I hope you all enjoyed it, and it was quite informative and a learning experience for you as it was for me. Because when I teach, I don't just teach, I learn as well. So thank you for this experience, and thank you for connecting with me. Thank you so much.